Welcome to another episode of the Elevated Barbers Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about professionalism and branding. So you do not want to miss this episode. Stay tuned.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, I am here with Delmar. My name is Bradford Kelly, aka the Business-Minded Barber. And Delmar, introduce yourself, man. Tell them who you are.
Yeah, because you're trying to introduce both of us at the same time. So this is Delmar, that's Brad, and we're here on another episode of the Elevated Barbers Podcast. Today, as you can see, we're very excited about this episode. We're going to have a great one for y'all. And allow me to introduce our guests. I don't want to hold them back any further. Welcome to the stage, Mr. SUGE, a.k.a. Mr. I Create Confidence,
a.k.a. Sejan.
Sejan. He's French.
Just sweet. Let people feel me.
Man, it's so good to have you on the show today. We were trying to connect personally, me and you, for quite some time. Oh, you got somebody that's about to join the show?
Man, every time I turn on this camera, he got to be on it.
What's his name, man?
This is Sejan. The other
Sejan Jr.
Say hi. Yeah.
Hi.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Man? All right.
Good.
Give me one pound. Give me a kiss. Bye.
Bye.
Every time.
It's all right, man.
Every time.
He's gonna be famous one day.
One day. He used to the camera already.
Yeah. So we was trying to connect, man, for a few weeks, just trying to do a live. And I was just like, man, we over here fighting to do a live. Let's get him on the podcast, and so I talked to Delmar. He was just like, yeah, man, bring him on. So wanted to definitely get you on and get some of the value that you have within you out and let some of the people here that tune into Elevated Barbers Podcast get them a different perspective of some things that we all talk about, which is like professionalism, branding, just growth as a barber in general. But first, let me just allow you to introduce yourself, man. Who are you? Where do you work at in regards to the state? And then, who are you? What do you do?
Well, as you said before, my name is Sejan. I have been at times SUGE the Barber and now Mr. I Create Confidence. And we can get into all of those different facets. I'm going to let you guys ask the questions and curate how we get into that. I appreciate y'all for having me on. I am born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. Went to college at Alabama A&M University and stayed in the South for about 13 years. Came back home, started cutting in 2013. So I guess this makes 11 years in the game. Formally finished my official licensing in 2019 and am now getting ready to be a licensed barber school instructor. Cut at a shop in Southfield, Michigan and I'm looking to move to the great state of Georgia to take my talents to Georgia's beaches.
Okay.
Here I am.
Oh man, so deep. So you are about to move, but you are in Michigan. Now you said you got into the industry in 2011, but got your license in 2019?
2013 is when I started cutting. 2013. So my journey to license is deep. Like a lot of people, I started cutting in 2013 in Huntsville, Alabama, where I went to college. And it started like, it wasn't on some, I've been cutting since I was 2 on the porch. I'm not that guy. I was 30 years old when I started cutting. And when I started cutting, it wasn't like I was trying to be a barber. My homegirl, who I went to church with, see, my background is music. I was a music major, vocal choral studies. I can really sing and read music and all of that. People don't believe me. And I'd be like, that's okay. I don't need you to believe me. And at church, I was a sound engineer. One of my homegirls, my godson's mother, she has a big heart for the homeless. And she does stuff around the city for the homeless, even to this day. And she was like, look, I'm doing an event at the Salvation Army. I'm doing hair. Why don't you come cut hair? Funny thing is, people thought I could cut hair then because all I would do, I took my little liners. I had a full set. You go to Walmart, you get the clippers. I had the wall guards that had the taper guard. Y'all know what I'm talking about? The one with no real barber uses or whatever. No. I had that, right? And I just did my beard and shaved my head with clippers. I didn't even know how to use a razor, but people thought I could cut hair for some reason. And she was like, why don't you come cut hair and I'm gonna do hair? I always want to help people anyway. So I was like, cool. We do it on a Sunday after church and I'm late because I got to break down the sound. Like typically the first people there, the last people to leave is the pastor and the sound engineer. We the first and last people at the church. And I get to the Salvation Army late and it's like 12, 13 dudes waiting. And they like, you the barber? And I'm like, Yeah. So my first time cutting was a packed house. I ain't know what the hell I was doing. Whatever. I got some stories about those cuts, but that's how it started. And when I got done that day, they was looking at me and her like, so when y'all coming back? And she looked at me and was like, next Sunday. And I was like, cool. About the third Sunday in a row we did it, I started to realize that I couldn't wait to get out of church because I wanted to go cut hair, even though I wasn't good, so to speak. And so to wrap up a long story, the barbershop that I was getting my hair cut at when I would, go get my little box shave and stuff like that was my homie from college who had started cutting here in the dorms. Now he's licensed and he had his own shop at the time. Still does. Shout out to Dep City Barbershop in Huntsville, Alabama. I knew he had a chair open and I was like, hey, can I take that chair? I don't know nothing about licensing or nothing like that. I'm just trying to learn. So I'm like, can I cut in that chair or whatever you got open, whatever the booth rent was, which wasn't but $50 a week at the time. And because I'm a visual learner. So I was like, if I can look at it, I can get it.
Yeah.
So I did that. And I would look at him and the other barbers in there, it wasn't before of us, cutting. And I would take that to the Salvation Army. Me and my homegirl ended up doing that 3 Sundays out of the month for about 6 or 7 months straight for free.
Oh, wow.
And it took me some years to realize what I fell in love with first, which wasn't hair. I fell in love with conversations.
Yeah.
And those conversations that I was having with those gentlemen kind of kept me afloat. You ever realize that you were going through a depression years later? You know what I'm saying? I was definitely going through a depression at that time, and they kept me sane. They gave me perspective because I'm cutting the hair and I feel down because I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent. But the person in my chair is smiling because he got here at 4:30, which means he could get a meal today, which also means that he's here in time to be there for count, to be able to get a bed for tonight, not tomorrow, tonight. And that gave me, it was like, yeah, I still feel bad that I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent, but at least I got a bed to sleep in and heat to go to tonight. And this gentleman is smiling and he doesn't. So I kind of don't feel good frowning at this point. And that the conversations, the stories, that's what I fell in love with. And that's what kind of carried me and made me who I am today as a barber.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, you showed sympathy with that too, man. Because it's like you was so locked in on what you was dealing with. And then you just realized in that moment, man, it could be worse. I'm worried about how I can't pay my booth rent. And this man don't even have nowhere to sleep. He ain't got no heat. He trying to get a meal. So it's like in that moment, you become grateful for what you do have.
Yeah.
And a lot of times throughout life, we have those moments. Oh, that was house rent.
That was my house rent. That booth rent.
That's still.
That was the house.
Yeah, that's still. Yeah, that's even more. Yeah.
But it goes to the mindset, like you're bringing up, D, is the ability to get out of your own head about your own situations, give of yourself, serve someone else, and have compassion for the plight that they may have, or have some type of empathy that because of whatever they're dealing with, like you're not focused and solely just thinking on you. And when you get your mind out of you about you, then you start to realize the world is bigger than you and you have a lot to be grateful for. That's super, super touching. That's touching.
I use that a lot throughout life, man, because it's easy for us to complain. You start looking at how people live in other countries, you don't realize how good that we have it, no matter how bad we think we have it. So just even in our industry, sometimes we have slow days. I got a slow day this week, 2 slow days this week.
It'll get
my mindset, probably so, but even if it don't, I'm of the mindset that, okay, these days are slow. Okay, cool. I'm a rest, relax my mind a little bit. I also have an opportunity to create content. I also have an opportunity to work on some content. There's other things that I can do. I can work on marketing. I can work on my website, whatever. But back in the day, I was like, man, it's slow, man. But you got people who never are booked up, so it always could be, worse. And that's just the type of mindset I have now about things. Like, just be grateful for what you do have. If I got 2 people in the book that day, man, be grateful for that, because I could not have anybody.
Yeah, for real. And that goes to the mindset that we want to kind of bring in, is about professionalism, right? Mm-hmm. Because as a professional, if you realize it or don't realize it, what you deal with on the outside comes to you, comes to your job. It comes to how you present what you do as a barber. And if you let it impact you in a negative way, then you will impact your clients in a negative way. It's like a domino effect. So, SUGE, how do you speak to professionalism, and you could go from a different, like a lot of different perspectives, but just when I bring the word up professionalism, what comes to your mind in regards to us as barbers?
So for me, professionalism has evolved over the years. At one point, it was you need to look a certain way. So 2015, when I first came home, I'm in the shop, no clients for real. I like to say that I started out in like that sweet spot between old school and social media age barbering. It was like Instagram, Facebook, and all of that for barbers was picking up at that point, but not to the point where you didn't still have to go and actually talk to people, give out cards and stuff like that. So I would leave the shop and go to it was a grocery store, a brand new grocery store next to the shop. And I would go pass out cards at the grocery store, the mall, but I did it in a suit because at that time, professionalism meant looking a certain way for me. And it meant looking not like everybody else. So I didn't see too many barbers in Detroit that was wearing suits, let alone cutting in suits, right? Yeah. And when I would give the person the card and be like, hey, you know, I'm SUGE the Barber, shop right down the street, come see me, whatever, woo. They would be like, you a barber? I'm like, yeah. They're like, you cut like that in a suit? I'm like, yeah. Some of them came just to see if I was actually cutting hair in a suit because they didn't believe it. Yeah. Right? That was a funny thing. And they're like, this dude really, I don't know how colorful my light, I'm just going to not do that, none of that. They're like, this dude really is in a suit cutting hair for real or whatever. Yeah. And I would look at other barbers that did different things. There was a certain barber here in Detroit. His moniker is like the direct opposite of mine. And it's my homie, always been my homie. And I would be like, oh, you tripping. And over the years, I started looking, and really look at it with an open mind. And I said, professionalism is not necessarily just one thing for all barbers. Professionalism also has to involve your clientele. And his clientele was not my clientele, but what he was doing was professional for them because that's the language that they speak. Otherwise, the chair wouldn't be spinning like it was. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm like, I can't just look at that and be like, it's been consistent for years, so I can't say it's fake or it's a rule. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? So professionalism for me in the barbering industry is being able to cater to your client and not lose integrity trying to cater to a certain audience if it's not naturally you.
Yeah, I like that. I like that aspect.
Yeah,
because it's different. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, me either. I've never looked at it as catering to the client, but in reality, it's almost like the opposite way of saying it, because most people would say you're going to attract the clients you want, right? So you have to build something that they want and then you attract them. But if you're catering to that, it's the same thing. You're saying the same thing. So that's actually a really good way of looking at it, like cater to the people that you want to serve.
And I kind of think we should reclassify professionalism from character. Good character is a totally different thing from good professionalism, so to speak. So like if I talk about my homie who he has a moniker. His moniker is no cut, no butt, right? You go on his page, he's saying that every day, all day. You got the client saying it and everything. And I'm like, how you going to attract these type of people and blah, blah, blah. Well, the truth is he's not trying to attract those types of people. He's trying to attract the people who hear no cut, no butt and be like, who is that, man? I'm going to my man shop. You know, that type. He plays a certain type of music, all that type of stuff. He can cut his face off, right? Yeah. He's on time, all that, all of the professional things. But when it comes to what he says and his branding, his moniker, that's his character. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Not his professionalism. Now they have to merge at some point, but they also have to die. It's a fork in the road at a certain point too.
It's almost like the difference between your brand and professionalism.
Yes.
Would you say that?
Yes.
Okay. Totally. Yeah, because I'm trying to like wrap my head around character and how do you visualize that? Like, how is a barber supposed to understand what you mean by character? And what you're saying is your consistency in the way that you bring yourself, it's going to impact your clientele one way or the other, and that's going to be happen over time. So if you have that, that's pretty much a brand, you know. Yes. So Delmar, I see you trying to interject, so I don't want to like keep going. Go ahead, man.
No, since we're on the topic of branding, I seen a video that you just recently posted, SUGE, and I want to lead off with, if it don't involve your brain, then don't put your brain into it. And then you went on to say that you speaking about marketing tactics and not overthinking when we're branding ourselves as business professionals, as barbers. Can you please share with the audience, like, what did you mean in that specific clip? I know y'all was talking about the Doritos Super Bowl commercial, so explain
what you saw in that clip. That was like about an hour-long conversation, as I said before. I'm instructing at Hair Lab Detroit Barber School. And one of my clients is is a master, like he's an entrepreneur. That's what he'll say. But he's steeped in marketing, branding, stuff like that. A business coach, so to speak. So I usually bring him in at least once a quarter. And the way me and him rock is I do a cut and he talk, and I might interject and say some stuff, but I pretty much let him do his thing, because those are the things that when people get out of barber school, they don't realize that now they don't know how to market themselves as a barber. They don't know how to brand themselves. That business wasn't talked about. That's why I love the name, the business-minded barber, because a lot of barbers they're talented, but they're not business-minded, right? And it's the business of barbering. If you make it the barber business, then cuts go before business, and we know how that goes, right? And he had brought up that Doritos had bought in to basically use the Sphinx Hotel on the Vegas Strip as a place where their advertising was going to go during the Super Bowl. So basically, the Sphinx Hotel, that's the pyramid, right? And they was pretty much, they just going to put a big old Dorito on the side of the hotel. And I was like, that's simple genius, right? So how much thinking went into that? Virtually none. I'm pretty sure in that board meeting where they decided that, somebody was like, we in Vegas, it's the Sphinx Hotel, like it's the shape of a Dorito. Why don't we just use that? And this was like, right? Why put your brain into it and you don't have to, right? And that's when I saw that, I was like, yo, that's genius. Like, yeah, we can go into it and try to make it deep, but that was very simple. We are Doritos with shaped like a triangle. There's one hotel shaped like a triangle on the Vegas Strip. Let's use that one. It doesn't have anything to do with, is this the most booked hotel on the Vegas Strip? Does it compete with MGM? Or do they have the best rooms? What are the reviews? It don't matter. It's shaped like a Dorito. We are Doritos. Boom. Put it right there. Take your brain out of it. If you're a thinker like me, I'm analytical. I'm a thinker. I suffer from all of that. Some stuff you just don't have to put your brain into, and it makes life a whole lot easier when you learn how to just go with it. This is it. The first thought was the best thought this time. I don't have to brainstorm and put a million things on the wall and pick the best one. The best one showed up first.
We got to talk about this. Because to the average barber, most people feel that you have to understand your brand, like you have to get it. So when you're saying go with it, what do you mean? Like how does a person that don't got your brain
go with?
How do they understand what you're trying to say to them?
Sometimes your audience will tell you what your brand is in the beginning, and your brand almost always will evolve. So that's how SUGE the Barber came about. I was in Texas when I first started. I started cutting in Alabama. I realized I needed to go to school. School wasn't available like it really should have been in Alabama at the time. I moved to Texas with a friend. I get to a barber school that is still standing to this day called the Master Barbers Institute. Shout out to them in Dallas, Texas, and Oak Cliffs to be exact. And I was in the, I guess you could say the Mexican part of town, right? And most of my class at the time, it was me and one dude named Smoke from New Orleans. We was the only black students in the school. And I say all that to say most of the people that came to the school were Mexican, straight hair. So I got good with shears and stuff like that in the very beginning of my barbering career. And a bunch of the guys that would come to the school when I would cut their hair, they would just look, man, anybody ever tell you look like Suge Knight? Now, mind you, at the time, I was about 350, 60 pounds. Like, I'm a cool 225, 230 now, but back then, I was about 350, 370 or whatever. And people have been saying that to me for the longest. Man, anybody ever tell you look like Suge Knight? I'm like, yeah, whatever. And at the time, what I had the privilege of in my barbering career was I went to college first, and I owned studios and stuff like that. So business was already a part of me. So I knew marketing and branding had to come in at some point, and I was trying to figure out how do I brand myself on this thing called Instagram. And I couldn't brand myself with the music because the music and the barbering were two different things, so to speak. I was 118 ENT as a musician. I couldn't be 118 ENT cuts because there's no story there, right? So if your brand doesn't have a story, you don't have a brand. It can't just be a name, right? And I'm like, it's right in front of my face. They keep calling me Suge. And I'm like, Suge the Barber. Let's see how that works. And then a couple years later, this happened. Just so happened, Suge, big blood and all that type of stuff. I'm not, but this was like, the whole thing just went together. My brain didn't have to be involved in it.
So is that red patch in honor of the name Suge?
No, not really. I'll tell you how that happened. How this happened. I was in the shop. Now, I've only ever cut at 2 barbershops in my whole 11-year career. The first shop that I cut at was a barbershop, and the shop that I'm in now is a barbershop. In between all of that, it's been all salons and private suites. Tone Black. I don't know if y'all know. He was an educator for a while. Him and Kenny Duncan used to roll heavy together or whatever. Both of them, I think, are out of Philly, but Tone, I think, is based out of North Carolina now, namely Charlotte. Tone, his signature look was he had this blacked out beard, but his goatee was gray.
Oh, I know you're talking about. I know you're talking about.
Black. So I was like, man, I want to do that. So I wanted to have a gray patch in my beard. I'm in a salon, so I'm like, how do I make this gray? They was like, you might be able to do it, but it might fall out. I'm like, what you mean? Well, in order to color your hair gray, you have to take all the color out first, which you have to lift it to a point where it's kind of unhealthy if you try to do it too quick. And even if you, it's like platinum, right? And you can't, it's not healthy to do that in one day, especially on virgin hair, so to speak. So it was like, you have to lift it, let it sit for a day or two, condition it, then try to lift it again until you get as much color out as possible, because gray is pretty much dang near the absence of color anyway. And it was like, when they said it might fall out, I was like, maybe not. So I just like lifted it a little bit. It was brown for a second, and it was December, and I was like, I'm gonna go red for Christmas.
Gotcha.
So I did the red for Christmas. I am also a part of the great fraternity of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, and our Founders Day is January 9th. And in that next January, I did blue for a second, and then went green real quick. It was blue. It was royal blue for a quick second.
Is that right?
About color. Blue, if you don't do it right, it will go green once it starts to fade. And I was like, I'm going back red. And it stuck, and I became known as the guy with the red streak in his beard. So that became my look, became a part of the branding too. So it was like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's keep it like this. So that's how the
you know what's funny? When I looked at your page last week, that was the first thing that stuck out to me, the red patch in the beard.
Yeah.
I let go of it for a second, and a friend of mine came to interview me at my suite when I had one, and he was like, hold up, we can't do the interview yet. I'm like, what you mean? He said, man, I need the red patch. And I was like, man, I'm past that now. He was like, no, man, that's not SUGE, man. I need the red patch. So he sat there and waited for me to, I was like, all right, whatever, bro, whatever you need. He was sat there and waited for me to color it and everything in order for me to do this interview with him. That ended up never coming out, but that's a whole nother story.
But that's key, because there's two things that you mentioned that needs to be highlighted about what you said regarding a brand. One of the things that you mentioned is that a brand needs a story, right?
Yeah.
And so creating a narrative around your brand is big, and the only person that can tell that story is you. But when it comes to you telling your story, you have to realize that it has to be authentic, right? It can't be some made up life that you don't live. And you were already SUGE the Barber before you took on the title SUGE the Barber. Like, you already looked like him from just a look perspective. Like you said, at that time you were more heavier, like he was, right? Like we all remember SUGE to be. So you had the look, you had the I guess the mannerisms maybe of him, and then at the same point in time you were a barber. So it fit when you put it all together. But you creating a narrative and a storyline around that allows for people to recognize the image that you portray, right? The story allows people to understand the image without them stumbling. So you could have like SUGE the Barber and then have no relationship to SUGE in what people's mind is, and it's confusing, and it breeds more questions than it does curiosity or more depth. So it's like a really good thing. And the second thing that you mentioned in regards to, after you mentioned about the story, you spoke about how it has to evolve. Like your brand has to be able to evolve. Can you dive a little bit deeper into how a barber evolves their brand?
I believe as you get better, as you learn more, of course, in order to evolve, you got to learn. You got to go ahead and go and seek out something that you don't know from somebody, preferably that you don't know. So for me, I started evolving on a micro level, just saying, all right, I'm gonna take some shear cutting classes because I don't see a lot of barbers doing shear classes. And there's this guy in Detroit named Tony Tonsurio, who is a black man that I see killing the shear game. Let me see what he got. Let me go and learn this and learn that. So I started taking classes. I'm looking at the YouTube videos like everybody else has done at some point in time in their barbering career, and I'm going to the hair shows. I'm seeing who is out there. I'm running into these people who I look up to, and I'm talking to them, right? And so evolving your brand as you grow to know more you shouldn't stay the same. You should make a change for the better. So as I matriculated through my years of barbering, I'm SUGE the Barber. I became known as such. And then I started doing these things called man weaves in 2017. Which was like the wave at the time. Nobody was really no one. I was the first barber in Michigan to do man weave that still lived here. I think there's one other barber by the name of John Cotton who was doing them before me, but he wasn't home when he was doing them. He was in New York where he is now. Great barber, great stylist. And so I would tell myself as the barber who brought man weave to the state of Michigan. And they were talking about, like, the barbers was like, man, you crazy. You paying how much to go take this class? And I'm like, it's $650 a class or whatever. And I took multiple classes, and I started to look at, when we talk about branding, the before and after pictures of specifically the guys with the man weaves, but then I did the same thing with the regular haircuts. And you ever notice when a barber takes a before picture, it's almost like the client is frowning and they don't know that they're frowning. And then they got this look on their face in the after picture. You know what I'm saying? They get to poking their lips out and all that, you know, whatever, trying to make it model face.
You poking your lips out, don't do that.
They're trying to do the Zoolander, you know, whatever. And I was like, what is that? Confidence. So then I was like, okay, at first I create confidence.
Yeah.
And then I changed it to Mr. Because that's how I would refer to myself, because I create confidence in and of itself became the brand that I could go globally with. It doesn't have to just be about hair. God gave me something that I could take and wrap a whole lot, because I'm a whole lot personally. Like, I'm still trying to, at 40 years old, I'm still trying to work through being all that I am. If you've been on my page, I'm into modeling, I'm into acting, fashion, activism, speaking, all of these things that encompass who I am. And at this point in my life, I don't just want to be one thing. I don't want to just be known as a barber. I want to exercise all of these talents and gifts that I have, but I got to put that under some type of umbrella. And that umbrella became I Create Confidence, which is under the Confidence Academy. If I want, I can mentor boys, or I can mentor people under that. I could do business under that. There's so many things that as a brand had evolved into, and I didn't have to think anymore about what should I call this, because it's all there. And I Create Confidence. I am Mr. I Create Confidence. You know, you see what I'm saying? So it was one of them no-brainer type things where it was like, that this is where I'm going with it as I keep growing. And that was that.
I love it, man.
That's catchy too, man, because, you know, it's essentially when we're cutting people's hair and they come in a certain way, they leave out with confidence. So it's very catchy, and I love how you branded yourself as well.
Thank you.
Yes. Who is that, man? You got to bring him on. If we hear him, we can't see him.
Bye-bye. You seen him already. Go ahead, baby.
Yeah, but those things are key, man. When you think about branding, it's always something that's growing. Your brand is growing. It's almost, to me, if I were to use like a food analogy, it's almost like a good gumbo. You know what I mean? Because it starts off with just a few things, right? Like I'm not a chef, but you know that it starts off with the roux, right? You got your three main principles, and then you add some stuff to get the roux right. But you have to understand your own story and why you became a barber, and why do you love being a barber? Why do you enjoy it, right? And if you think that your name matches your love for it, and you if you are able to embody that into like a sentence, a small thing, a small phrase, like the Prince, right? Like there's a story behind why he's called the Prince. There's a story behind his business called Royal Luxe Grooming. There's a story behind why I call myself the business-minded barber. Why it's actually, like you said, SUGE, like I didn't just name myself this. People always said this about me. Like, oh man, you think like a business. Like you always think like a business. You're always trying to do these things. So the business-minded barber it's my brand. It's me as a impactor. I don't consider myself an influencer, but I am definitely trying to impact lives. Another level of barbering is my business where I service clients. And this is for them another level of what they have experienced in barbering, right? They've experienced a lot of different things, but I try to show them another level of that. So that's that. But if there's a story that goes with it, if someone asks, you know what I'm saying? And just like you yourself, there's depth to it. And so as you grow with any good gumbo or any good dish, you're gonna add more seasonings to it to enhance it. But it's still gonna be you. you.
Yeah.
And you have to understand how to present that to people so that we can do what we were talking about in the beginning, is attract the clients that you really want.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to present that to the people that you want. And you have to know who you are for you to be able to know who you want to serve. Because if you don't know who you are and you don't know who you're trying to serve, then you're just going to be out there existing, cutting any and everybody, being frustrated with who showed up. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
You serve everybody, you serve nobody.
woo, see, I said all that, and then he just do a one-liner mic drop.
He came in with the serve everybody out there. Yeah, okay, I see what you did. You see what you did? Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. He Billy D. William the whole the whole podcast.
Put your Colt 45. All right.
Oh man, that's funny, Billy D. Williams. And
But-
look, I want to move the conversation forward.
Yeah.
So, Suge, you had a video that you posted recently saying that there's companies in our industry that are making millions, billions of dollars off of us, but we're the ones that's pushing the industry forward. Can you explain what you was talking about in that video? Because you don't have to name drop, but there's a lot of companies out there that are constantly putting out clippers. If anybody paying attention, the clipper game is like the shoe game now. There's a new clipper that come out every week. There's a new trimmer, new foil shaver. There's new everything that come out every week. And, they put these clippers and these trimmers in front of barbers, new barbers, old barbers. And we get so caught up in, oh, it's a new clipper. Let me go get that. Oh, it's a new trimmer. Let me go get that. And we spend so much money with these companies buying all these clippers and trimmers, but they're making so much money off of us doing that. And we're not getting anything but a remodified clipper. It might not even be improved. Like he said in the video, I'll let him explain, but it might not even be an improved clipper. They're saying all the specs, it got so much RPM and all that. But how do we really know? We're not the engineers of these, these tools that we're using. So just kind of dive into what you was talking about in that video, because that was a heavy one.
So some weeks ago, I was doing some research for one of the classes that I was teaching at the barber school. So we have a block, because we do blocks at our barber school called PD, Professional Development, where in that block we specifically talk about business. We talk about, hey, this is what goes into owning the barbershop. This is how you treat clients, how you taxes, all of that type of stuff. And I forgot exactly which class I was talking about, but it led me to want to do some research on how much we make, or how much the hair industry at large is making. And I believe it might have been somewhere around 300 billion some odd dollars worldwide. Of that, at least this was in 2023 when I was doing the research, and they were saying the hair industry in the United States alone is slated to make at least $19 billion. And when I read that, I kind of instantly got mad, because I was like, out of that $19 billion, I don't know what percentage, but I know it's low, of how much the barbers and stylists, the nail techs, the estheticians, how much we are making of that piece of the pie. We're in it, but I don't even know if that slice that belongs to us is even visible. And I'm not blaming it all on the companies. I'm not blaming it all on us, because at the end of the day, if we don't learn how to do things like consult and how to charge for our intellectual property and stop just giving advice for free, then it's going to continue to be that way. I believe somebody went I forgot I think Joe Flannel, forgive me if I'm saying his name wrong. He's one of the guys involved with MLB. And they do the barber, the trade shows and stuff like that. And I love the expos, and he was talking to Morono about the same topic somewhat. And I was like, when you talk about putting out better clippers and stuff like that, I don't think the companies, which we won't name one specific, I don't think they're going to give us better, because I don't think we actually require better. We somehow or another, somebody from their R&D, research and development department, started to see that. I think these dudes, barbers, most of us is all sneakerhead. We all love shoes, right? And when it comes to being a sneakerhead, if we're going to use that moniker, so to speak, the shoe companies realize we don't have to keep giving them a new shoe. We can just change the color on the shoe and they'll keep buying it. That's what they're doing with clippers.
Yep.
Once you realize whatever this number clipper is, they use the same motor and put a different blade set on it that is no different than another clipper they created. It's like they intermingle in the three different clippers clippers that they base everything out of, putting some information on the box and giving it back to us and charging us more money for it. And I don't think the quality is going up. I just got a trimmer, and this is the first trimmer that I've bought in years, and I'm like, oh, this one is actually better. And it's the Coco trimmer.
Yeah.
And I can't lie. That now Morano is somebody that I definitely look up to, and I definitely would say he's different when it comes to how he attacks barbering, but because he attacks barbering from an engineering mindset, not a barber brain mindset, so to speak. So that diamond lap technology is second to none. I had to give it to him on that. But where the money is actually being made, we're not there. The money is not really, that 19 billion ain't being made from behind the chair. It's the other side of the chair. It's products. Yeah. It's the tools, those different things. And it's we barbers, man, we some of the smartest, most intuitive people that I've met. And because I don't think we have mastered building our own community, meaning saying, hey, I started building this and I've gotten as far as I can go. Is there another barber or another person that can come in on this with me and help me take this further? So now we can build the team, and the team then goes out and makes better products, so to speak. I think Bazio is doing it with Tune 45. I'm pretty sure there's some others that are doing the same thing, but not enough, so to speak, that are doing it, because there's so many egos in the industry that we won't come together and use the power of us instead of just me. I'm dope.
It's competition over collaboration, and it should be collaboration over competition for sure.
And if we can't go together to these companies and say, hey, if y'all don't give us something better, we ain't buying them, then why would they even give us something better? For what?
Yeah. And that's a big deal, because you do have a few barbers that are getting into the space where they're starting to share products. I mean, you hear a lot of people talk about white labeling products. You mean it's already out there, you didn't put your name on it, but it's somebody else's stuff anyway, versus collaborating with someone like what Morano did with Coco. Like he was a part of the barbers that collaborated with Coco, where they asked him about his, like you said, his intellectual property on how to create certain things. Now there is some depth into the recycling of the actual clipper. There's like a lot of conspiracy. If you online right now, then you see this big old battle between Chris Basio and T-Pop, and who's doing what and all of this stuff. But in reality, if you just get your emotions out of it and look at the reality of things, a lot of clipper products, they do. I mean, this is a business model though. Like we can't knock them for operating in a good business model. Like the people that come out with this stuff, we can't knock them. Like this is a business model where it's about creating something new. Like that. All car companies do this. All, like, they do it every year. Like we keep phone companies do it. It's the same model, and they're just doing it in this industries. Like, oh, okay, this is equipment that they use. Let's keep coming out with similar things that are a little bit more improved, but it's not really changing. Right. So at the end of the day, we can't be mad at the model. It's more of how do we play the game, and you have to understand how you play the game, because you may not have the capital to try and create your own company that's going to create products. Right. But you have to understand the 4 levels of making money. The first level of making money is understanding what you can do with your body. And I say that's working fun, right? You learn how to work fun. Second level of making money is you understanding how to create systems that allow you to work fun easier, right? All the hard work and working hard that you do, you have to learn how to make it systematic, so that the inputs create a consistent output. The third level is understanding how to make more money per minute, right? That's you being able to work less and make more. And the fourth level is you being able to learn how to make money without having to work at all. If you start to understand those 4 different levels of making money as a barber in your booth or wherever you at, then you will tap into so much more of who you are and even your creativity, because you'll start to see your business is a lot bigger than your hands and your fading blade. You'll start to see that your mind has the ability to make way more money than your body can, and you have to tap into that. So I think what you were just saying, Suge, was like great, just to capitalize.
I mean, I started to get really frustrated even moving outside the 19 billion from the hair industry aspect of it. When I started teaching man weave classes and stuff like that, you get all these messages, and if you posting consistently, somebody's gonna jump in your inbox and ask you a question. Yeah, and then you get to a a point where you started to be so helpful, and it just seems like it's not recognized. That person ain't shouting you out saying thank you for real or nothing. But the famous person, the big faces, oh man, I love that person, blah blah blah. I'm like, you got that information from me. What are you talking about? You act like that because you saw me do it and you just told me you did it and gave the credit to somebody else. Now, I'm big on accountability all the way around. So yeah, I can get mad at you about that, but I have to get mad at myself because I didn't charge you. That's my fault.
Yeah.
When I didn't see what I was saying to you as valuable enough to charge you for it, that ain't your fault that I gave it to you. It was my fault that I didn't charge you for it. And now, once I started saying, hey, this costs. If you want this level of knowledge, this costs. The questions stopped coming as much. So I started to know, oh, so you don't actually value this as much as you say you do when it costs you something.
Yeah, it's a man, Delmar, me and you, we understand this, bro. The challenge of pressing past cost versus investment, right? Like it's both spending money, but it's the mindset that you have. Yeah, it's the mindset that you have about where the money's going. Something can look like a cost that's an investment, and that means you'll never grow. You'll be like, man, that costs such and such amount to get whatever, but you're not looking at the return of that. You're only looking at the fact that you're spending money. And then something else could be an investment, but you look at it as a cost, and you'll be like, oh no, like I can't spend the money on that. And if you don't understand the difference, then you'll be investing in stuff that's literally just a cost, and that means you're wasting money. You're just buying more stuff. You're just spending more money on things that's not going to give you a return. And then you'll not spend money on things that will actually bring a return because it looks like spending money. And you got to be able to understand the difference. Delmar, you could speak to that, man, because I remember you had like a light bulb moment when that happened.
Nah, man, and I've been having this conversation with people lately. We have to get to a point where we stop saying things are expensive and either say I don't value it at that cost or I'm not willing to pay that much for it. Stuff don't be expensive. Everything has a market. Yeah. You got more people who drive Hondas and Toyotas, but that don't mean that ain't stopping nothing that Mercedes, Cadillac, and BMW doing. Exactly. Yeah. Everything has a market. So like you just spoke of, you have valuable information, right? And somebody wants that information. When you was giving it out for free, a lot more people was willing to talk to you and ask you questions to get that knowledge. And then they turn around and use it and they making money off of it. Yeah. But when you start charging for said valuable information, oh man, I ain't willing to pay that. Well, you don't value this information as much as, like you say, as much as you thought you did, because now it has a price on it. Yeah. When it was free, oh yeah, I'm willing to get all this information and ask all these questions. But I think Cole Cuts the Barber, he talks about this a lot. He says that, I can't constantly give out value and not get value in return. I have all this knowledge that I've obtained through experience or through researching or investing in the knowledge. Excuse me. And so many people want it for free, and it's not always monetary value. But if I can exchange something with you that you value, what do you have to offer me in return that's going to be of value to me? Exactly. Yeah. So it's all about the mindset.
Once I start investing to learn this stuff, it can no longer be charity to give it out, not to everybody. So
because you're paying the price for it.
Yeah. And at a certain level of knowledge, a certain level of wisdom, a certain level that I've went through just to be who I am. I'm not saying that you can pay to be who I am, but what I know, it costs me something. So it got to cost you something. I can't just give it to you. Like that's how you drive yourself crazy. And that's how you end up quitting the business, whatever business that is, because you feel like I don't have no respect here. This don't love me. So you walk away from it. And it's not just their fault. It's your fault when you didn't realize your value, your worth, all of the words that we assign to these things. And when you start to, it's like fame, the whole fame thing, I think, especially in the barber industry, there's so many barbers that want to be famous. And they're like, why do you think that? Because when you look at barbers hashtags, the barber hashtags are all hashtags that only barbers look at. So you're trying to impress barbers. And that's, I'm not saying it's anything wrong with wanting to be respected by your peers. But when you look at your likes and it's mostly barbers and your clientele ain't where it needs to be, that means you're not studying clients, you're studying your coworkers. And your coworkers aren't going to pay you. Start to figure out what your clients is talking about. If it's an important event, if we talking about social media hack, if there's an event in my community that's going on, I'm from Detroit, the Lions just was playing. You need to hashtag during that time, Lions everything, because people are looking at that. You never know who's coming in the city, who's in the city looking for a haircut, and they looking at the Lions hashtag looking for the Lions, but they find you. And it's like I didn't just wake up thinking like that. I took business mastermind classes to learn that type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So now people's asking me, how you know, man, your sound crispy, man. It looked like blah, blah, blah. How you do that? Okay, cool. I'm going to come out with a class. I'm not going to give it to you for free because I'll spend a lot of money on cameras. I'll spend money on classes to learn how to light my setup, figure out what an RBG light is, what a key light is, what a scroll, all of these types of things. I spend money to learn this.
Yeah.
And where I think we mess up, and this is where I like to talk about my mistakes and not call out everybody else's. My mistake with the man weave thing was I thought that maybe I could lower the amount of the class to a point where people would catch on.
Yeah.
It works like that. And because I wanted to teach a certain amount of people, like I want to leave this industry knowing that I gave a legacy. Now, the people who get what I give, they come to the barber school. Students. Yeah. All you professionals, you licensed already and all of that, you got to come to the class. So the same client that I had the conversation about the Doritos thing, he's my client. And like I say, he's a master marketer. He don't pay for haircuts. I don't pay for marketing tips and classes, right? So that's how we borrow that. And he was like, look, man, you need a high ticket item. And I was like, you're right. Because instead of trying to charge somebody, trying to get a bunch of people to pay a low price, I just get 2 people to pay the high price. I'm doing less work for more money. We don't realize those types of things because we so involved in the numbers. How many likes did I get? And I get it. It's
you involved with the wrong numbers.
It's a gratification.
The question is who liked, not how many did you get.
Yeah.
The right person, you out of here.
It's a difference between having clout and being in the clouds. Clouds means you definitely have, you've allowed some sun to hit the water and you elevated.
Yes,
Cloud, you just got a whole bunch of people that pay attention to you and you don't know what's there. You don't know who's looking at you. Yeah, that's all it is.
I want to go back to something you just said though, Suge. You said that you don't pay for marketing from your client and he don't pay for haircut. It's still a payment. Y'all just not exchanging monetary payment. Y'all exchanging valuable information.
Yeah. We're exchanging our values. We call it the barter system, right? That goes back to Don, who's in your chair. Because when we was talking about, building your team and stuff like that, some of us are looking for a team that's right in front of us. We just haven't asked them to be a part of the team, or we haven't picked their brains to figure out. It's people like
you don't even know that they're a teammate.
You should not have a client that you don't know what that client does for a living. It should be impossible for that to happen. But you got to talk. So you can't be cutting and you got your headphones on and you killing that cut, but you don't know who's in your chair. You killing that cut in the back of your head. You trying to figure out how you gonna move this furniture, and the person you cutting owns a freaking moving company. You know what I'm saying?
And I had to learn that earlier on, man, because I was one of those barbers who I would go to the shop. I'm an introvert. I would go to the shop and headphones in. I'm getting in my rhythm and I was pushing them in and out. But at the same time, I'm not increasing my value because I'm not talking to my clients and asking them what they do, how their day was, just trying to get to know the person that's in your chair. They're patronizing you, so they're taking their time out their day, come sit in your chair. They're patronizing you. This is their getaway from reality. A lot of men, a lot of women come to the shop to escape reality, be able to talk to their barber, whether you're in the barbershop or you're in the suite. Once I started seeing that is more than just a haircut, I started, increasing my value. I started doing things better. So we have to see it in a different way than just a hustle. Because a lot of us still see this as a hustle.
Oh, he got to come on camera, man. We can't just hear him and not see him. Sejan, what's up, man?
Good.
You good?
You know that Daddy's on a TV show right now?
No, I'm talking about TV show like the new Sonic show. Like it's like the new Knuckles show.
He don't care nothing about Daddy being on TV right now.
One track, Doc. One track. That's all I got in my mind is one track. I'll be upstairs in a minute. Okay, we gotta go get your sister. Okay, all right, bye. And I think all of that is great stuff. It goes back to we have to be better at building relationships with our clients. Caring about what they have going on. I ain't saying you got to be their therapist, but if you got it in you, they're gonna pull it out of you. That's how I built a big part of how I built my clientele was I care about people. So I speak in a certain way. I started to notice that people come to you the first time for the haircut, especially if you kill it. Once you come to the second, third, fourth, fifth haircut, cut has been years, they really coming to talk to me. And that's what I realized from me. I'm able to curate conversation a certain way that I didn't have to be taught to do that. Music taught me to be like that. I'm an emotional man, and I don't mind saying that I'm emotional. It ain't about not being emotional. Put that down, baby. It's about controlling your emotion and having those types of conversations where men became vulnerable in my chair. And I loved it. And they became vulnerable because I was vulnerable. And I will admit a big portion of it was I'm in a private suite. So they'll talk to me about things because there's nobody else here. Yeah. But I started to notice when appointments will overlap, somebody's late, somebody's early, it's 2 or 3 of us in there. And now the person in the chair and the person not in the chair are actually healing each other. I'm just cutting now. So I'm like, okay, it's power in this community. It's time for me to leave the suite because this conversation won't grow as long as it's just me and you in this shop. So that's why I left my private suite was because I needed that conversation. I needed the community of men or people, period, in my chair to grow from just having secret conversations to having open conversations. Because for a lot of the dudes, most of us need therapy at 40 some odd years old. Most of us need therapy in some way, shape, or form, and we know we do, but we won't go talk to the therapist. We will go talk to our barber, and maybe if I'm the type of barber that they will listen to, tell them, I don't know how I got here, but they'll listen to their barber, tell them like, man, I talk to you, brother, I care about you, I love you, man, but you need to go see a therapist, bro. They might listen to me, and maybe they come back a better person for their families and stuff. I'm a family man, so I attract a lot of family, a lot of customers that have families and stuff like that. I had to learn, that goes back to the beginning, I had to learn how to cater to the clientele, cater to my clientele, so to speak, or whatever. I'm sorry, I'm done.
No, that was good, because I think a lot of barbers do not understand the power that we have behind the chair. One of the things that we have behind the chair is the ability to impact lives, and it goes beyond just a haircut. It goes beyond just the service that we do. If it's a men hair replacement, if it's a beard treatment or whatever, it doesn't matter, whatever the service is. But there's a deeper depth that goes into that experience for the client, depending on how much time you're spending with them. And if you don't understand that you have value outside of just the service, then you won't be able to understand how to cause them to value you outside of the service. You have to bring you're learning. And this goes back to my business mind, because anytime you think about business, any good business always thinks about what attracts a person, and then how do you expand on what attracted them so that you can make more money. That's just facts. Any business does that. It's not me being mean. It's not looking at your clients like a dollar. It's literally understanding business. If you got them to be attracted to you for one thing, that's great, but you want to expand on what they give you money for. So when you think about the value that you provide as a barber, they're going to initially come to you for whatever service you promoted, and then they saw it and they or somebody talked to them, they come to you for that. But then if you have enough depth within yourself, and you've connected with so many different people, and you have resources in so many different ways, then you become more valuable than just the cut that they came to you for. You can also charge for that connection. A lot of times we'll give away our resources simply because we're trying to be helpful, and that's good. It's good to have the heart to do it, but at the same point in time, if you don't understand that the heart to be helpful is actually going to be a one-way street, if you don't understand how to make it 2 ways, like you were talking about with the advice you may give somebody, right? You may give a barber advice and you can just do it for free, but at a certain point you got to realize that's intellectual property, and I need to be able to get a recoup on that because I paid for it. Not you have to pay for it, but I want to allow you to invest in yourself, because if you pay, then you're going to pay attention. If you don't pay, then a lot of times you're just going to go in one area and out the other, and you're not going to
get this. It pains me to give it. When you sit up and give advice to people all day, I tell people all the time, I got 20 minutes between the shop and home is all the time I got to get what y'all downloaded on me off of me before I walk in my house, because my family don't deserve that. They might tell me some heavy stuff. My family don't deserve me bringing that in this house because it don't belong to us. So I got to charge you. Like, it ain't just the fire haircut that you paying for. I need a little more money if you gonna tell me these deep dark secrets, Doc. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Shoot.
That's real though, man. Because man, we do. I know with me, I'm in a private suite, so I have more people open up to me now than they did when I was in a barbershop setting. So it's like, when you're in a barbershop, everybody's talking, right? when it's just you, it's like, man, I'm receiving all of this. And then you might be talking with them too because it's a conversation, but it's like on my way home, man, I just need to decompress.
Yeah.
It's not that the cutting of the hair is getting to me. I can do that in my sleep. I've been doing it for 19 years now.
Wow.
I sound old.
Congratulations.
Been doing it for 19 years now, but it's conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm already dealing with my own thoughts,
Yeah.
my own emotions and things that I have to deal with as well. And we take that on from other people as professionals. I don't think people realize that it's not just a haircut. And I be having to explain it to people who not in our industry. Like, oh man, you know, when you cut the clippers off and you turn the lights off and you go home, that's it. It's so much more. I gotta decompress. One, I gotta respond and check emails, text messages, and all this other administrative stuff that I gotta deal with too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just being just not cutting hair. It's not just fading. If you're a professional barber. Now, for a lot of people, it is just cutting hair. They go to the shop, like you said, put the headphones on, and they leave. I was one of them people. But now that I have this bigger role, and I don't mind it because I know this what comes with being a professional barber. But at the same time, we have to learn to take care of our mental too. I don't know where this came from. I just was flowing with what you was talking about because it's so real.
Yeah,
it's real.
I do want to talk because I gotta go in a second because I gotta pick up my daughter from daycare. Hallelujah. But we just got her at daycare. Like, ooh. Anyway, speaking on the vein of professionalism, like this whole thing coming up in Georgia, they trying to deregulate the state of Georgia as far as the barber's license. I do want to talk about that briefly for a second. I think a lot of barbers are looking at this wrong. Like they think that they're attacking the professionalism of barbering or lack thereof, or whether or not the government thinks that barbers are in fact professionals, so to speak. I don't think it has anything to do with that. This is a thing. This is about money. And it's funny because for me, I'm like, okay, it then came back up. A lot of barbers, this is the first time of them hearing about a state, something being on the Senate floor about deregulation. This has been happening since like 2018, 2017 from different states. It's been showing up. The whole ploy is to get the United States to be deregulated. And it's like, for me, I don't think deregulation needs to happen. I think there needs to be a retooling of the number of hours that the different states have to do, and maybe even a universal barber board for the United States, because this whole everything different in different states things, that's what allows them to be able to attack state by state. It's divide and conquer.
Ain't united,
right?
The state,
yes,
the states
it's divide and conquer at its finest.
States are not united.
And then it's like, okay, I don't think this ain't got nothing to do with our professionalism or what they think about us as professionals. When you got people taking out $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 loans to go to barber school because financial aid is now involved to pay for it. You get the license, you get in the shop, you cutting, and you vastly underreport or you don't report at all. That leaves the government hanging with that bill. And they like, well, where can we save money, so to speak? Now, there's something to be said when it comes to student loans at four-year universities being atrocious with the level of education they are providing versus how much money they're charging, so to speak. But when you attack low-hanging fruit first. So what's the low-hanging fruit? Barber, cosmetology, esthetician industry, nail industry. That's what they could attack the quickest. Because do we even know what the bill is called? We know they're trying to deregulate the state of Georgia, but that bill has a name to it. It has a number attached to it. And if you go vote and you don't know what it's called, are you gonna vote against it? Are you gonna show up to vote if y'all want to keep the licensing available? And I hate to say it like this, at this point, I'm like, well, I got my license and my education. It is what it is, because I unfortunately think that this is a train that we're not going to be able to stop. We don't even know what a lobbyist is. We don't know that they're the people on the other side that's trying to make this happen. They have lobbyists behind them that are filling the pockets of people to get this stuff on these bills. They are talking to the senators. We trying to talk to the board, and the board don't even know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And then we don't show up to our board meetings.
Yeah, we don't show up to the board meetings, and the board is not here to represent you. They're here to keep you in a health code regulation. That's the reason why they're there. They're not here to represent you. What'd you say?
Yeah, they just going by the book.
Yeah.
Show up when the crime has been done.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what you're bringing up, Suge, is huge, because this goes into the conversation of, do we need a union? You know, as barber beauty professionals, this whole industry, the beauty industry, do we need a union? And some would argue yes, some would argue absolutely not. But the reason why is because when things like this come up, and if I'm not correct, please do correct me. But it's Senate Bill 354, right? Yeah. So Senate Bill 354 is the proposition for deregulating in the state of Georgia specifically. But that's like they try it in one state so that they can do it in other states. But
And Georgia is the mecca of barbering beauty
Yeah.
industry.
so if they get it across over there, then there's
Everybody
no
else gonna fall in
how far
line.
it's gonna go.
And they already tried
But-
Arizona. They already tried Texas. I think it did pass in a state. I don't know which one, but I think it passed in the state. And they're like, we can get one and get out there.
Yeah, but the reason why they don't look at us, and in my opinion, the reason why they don't look at us is because we don't have a way to represent ourselves. We want to be so independent that you don't realize that your independence allows everybody to get hurt. You know what I mean? Because nobody is able to stand up for us. So you got people like Tariq, who is somebody that's he goes to the Senate, like he goes and he talks to politicians and different things. He builds relationships with those types of people. There's other barbers that do this too. It's not just him, but I'm just speaking to some people that you may know them, but they are different people that will go fight for the barbers in their area. You know what I mean? With the government, and that's not a thing that we have as a whole. And we don't, because we don't want to be subject or tied to nothing. We want to just be ourselves and whatever. But there's a reason. Yeah, it's super selfish, but it's the reason why bills like this can get passed, because I do feel like it's an attack on just like that same bill with they were correct on Uber and everything, but when they started to classify what a commission structure versus an employee was, you remember that like a few years ago? That happened like in 2020 or 2021. Like this stuff it picks at our ability to grow in this industry. And so if you think that deregulation doesn't affect your ability to grow, you're mistaken. Because if everything is unregulated, then there's no way to say you're professional.
Yeah,
you can't.
And they want affect you being able to get loans, going to banks. A lot of business things get affected once that comes off the table.
Yeah. So
they won't do this to doctors or lawyers.
Said what?
I said they won't do this to doctors or lawyers.
Yeah, because lawyers, doctors, all of them got unions. Lawyers, they have a guild. They have a guild that they're in. Doctors, they have a guild that they're in. Nurses, they have a union. So they can go on strike and they can say, we're not going to do this as a group to serve the whole. But we don't got that. We every man, we crab in a barrel. We don't know, we don't realize it, but
we still talking about who fade better and who
competition,
who enhancements and all of this crap.
we got to think higher than that, man. This is why we don't get treated as professionals.
Yeah,
big time.
This is why we not respected.
Man, we got to let you go, man. I know you got to go pick up your daughter, but this you brought up a major topic.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We got to do a part two, man.
We do need a part two. We do need a part two.
We got to get a part two, man. I appreciate you for your time, Suge. For real, this was value added all the way through this whole episode.
Thank God I could add something. Hopefully
Absolutely.
I don't think I was just talking outside of my head. Like we ain't gonna hear this one. He wasn't talking about nothing.
Oh no,
this was very valuable, man. This was very valuable.
I appreciate y'all for having me. This means a lot to me, man. For real.
Your perspective on how you view things made me think. So I appreciate this.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you for real.
That's what this podcast.
Part two,
I look forward to it, Doc.
All right, my brother. We appreciate you. So for us here and there, everybody everywhere, this is Elevated Barbers Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed this show. Peace.
Yo.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Money.